Good morning, folks. Kevin here. Well, it's June 25th, 2018, Monday, and I'm up in the second food forest area where I do the composting. So this is another large pile compost. Recently I posted a video that included a little bit on the compost pile and me going and picking up compost from Purpose Farm. Yesterday I was able to get the remainder of the compost at Purpose Farm. I still have probably a couple loads from one of my neighbors just a road over that I'll end up picking up, but it rained yesterday and a little bit last night, so her property is pretty lowland area, and so it's pretty wet, so I won't go and get that manure until this coming Sunday. However, this pile consists of two main components. The first component that was underneath the whole pile, which was where I'm standing right now, was a pile that I transplanted down from the work area site this spring. Now that pile was, I don't know, quite a few yards of compost from Purpose Farm last fall. And it was too wet up here to truck the material up here and get it set up correctly. Also involved in that were a couple of dump truck loads of leaf and sticks and all that were in that pile. And this spring I brought it up here, added lots of our leftover crop material from the gardens and weeds as well. One of the neighbors had a couple of the round bales of hay that had spoiled, that had gotten too moldy for feeding to the cattle. Brought those up. A couple of small bales of hay that were used for target practice as well, for bow and arrow. So that was all incorporated. Then once I got Purpose Farm's manure and bedding material, I started putting that on top of the pile that was right where I'm standing right now. And over the last week or so, the material got up to about 140 degrees temperature. Now I purposely encapsulated the material from last year because it had already been soaked since sitting all winter, very, very heavy, lots of leaf material that turned into like sheets and all. And I did turn it when I brought it up here, but it still was overly saturated, very, very wet. Fortunately, a lot of the material that came from Purpose Farm, half of it was adequate moisture, the other part of it was pretty dry, since it was pretty fresh stuff and we've had a pretty dry spell. So since the temperature had gotten up into the 140 degrees Fahrenheit range, I decided it was time, because that wet, moist material from last year probably was starting to go anaerobic now, especially since they had the outer capsule of thermophilic composting going on. So I decided to break all the material up. So I brought Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, so the front end loader and the mini excavator up here, and really mixed up the material. I tried to take the wet, leafy material from last year, break it up into small pieces because that had already started decomposing, and mix that in with the hay and bedding material, the dry stuff there, and mixed it up pretty well, and got that pile behind me here. And I'll take the Karma GoPro so you can just fly around this pile so you get an idea of the size of it. And so I got that mixed up yesterday, and like I mentioned, there'll be a couple more loads that I'll add to it later on. The temperatures this morning, and it took me all day to turn that pile. Well, it took me half a day. The first half of the day I was going to get in the rest of the material from Purpose Farm. The material is up to about 110, 115 degrees right now. And again, we always want to get the temperature up into the, I'd say, upper 30s, 40s, or 50s. Let's say 135 degrees to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And we want to maintain that for more than 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And we have to turn the pile if we start seeing that the temperature hits 165, 160, 165, or if we see lots of evidence of actinobacter, that's the stuff that looks like ashes from a fireplace, or white powdery material, or filamentous. It used to be considered a fungi, but now is known to be a bacterium, a gram-positive rod. And so that's one of the things that we're always looking for. And I'll go over, if there's an interest in it, I'll go over the basics of composting and all. Now, I don't follow all the rules. I don't keep this pile covered because it's just too darn big, and it's too windy around here for me to manage with tarps or other silage type material, something that's breathable, ideally. But I'm working with the elements of nature, the weather conditions, to try and manage these compost piles, and it's turned out fantastic thus far. But each pile is a little bit different because there's different components in it. It's not an exact mixture complement of the nitrogen and carbon ratios like most piles are. So it's a pretty good pile. I think I'll put the GoPro on the Karma, fly it around here real briefly before it gets any windier, and then I got to get on to my next project. So if this was of value, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. Feel free to leave a comment, ask questions, and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye now.